Camera A. Desk. Desk. Alrighty, guys. We got some dudes in here that we're gonna be working on today. Yeah. So these are gonna be the ones that we're gonna be finishing today, but we're not gonna do too much with it right now. We're actually just gonna kind of like leave them alone for a little bit, and we're gonna construct or finish constructing the whistles. So the whistles are in which bin here? Not that bin, not that bin. Not that bin, the bin over here. Mini wheel. All right. I might do it over here for a little bit. We might need to move a couple of things. I want to keep it kind of chill over here. Maybe I don't need this. It seems like it's enough light actually without the little lamp here. Okay. Somebody says hello, hello. I hope you're doing well. I'm gonna get some clay here. We are gonna be making the rest of the whistles here. So it'll be kind of cool. I feel like what we need to have is these handles that I just threw or pulled to be dry enough for the final little stage, right? But I will be making a whistle right now. In the meantime, while we're letting those handles kind of set up, we also got to make sure desk. We have some of these tubes from yesterday. We just want to make sure that they're not getting too dry. So we're going to take a little water spritzer, which is, oh, it is right here. And we're just going to say hello. Spritz a little bit of water, let it reconstitute itself, just to make sure everything is around the same wetness when I go to connect everything, right? In the meantime, we'll do one of these. Camera B. Mini wheel. All right. So we'll do this, and we'll see. I wish we could. I think that looks better because then you don't have as much as that light in the background behind it. So it's like blocking that light a little bit. Okay. So we have our little whistle here. It's just two hemispheres that I bonded together and I flattened one side, right? So like as soon as I flatten this one side, all of a sudden, this is going to be the spot for that little hole, like if you've ever seen like a whistle. Let's see, I got one lying around here, which I'll use as like a base, I guess, right? So, you see how this has a flat top, a hole on the side, the mouthpiece, and then this is where the air is getting split on that little wedge, right? Right, so we're going to be making a whistle from just those two hemispheres with that flat top, right? So, and that's what we're going to connect to the rest of the thing. Somebody says, hello, friend, hello. But yeah, so we will be, I like to make a little mouthpiece, right? So I just kind of smooth out like these little, they actually don't need to be too long, right? But I do think they work the best when they are not like sinking really far deep into the vessel. So I'm going to make them a little bit more stubby. And you can decide to be perfect with it. I am not really a perfect kind of person, so I like to kind of screw off and get things a little bit wonky when I make these. I still tried to throw a couple of them, but they didn't really work the way that I wanted. And some people will say, like right now, like, why are you not slipping and scoring the mouthpiece on? I never do for whistles. I always feel like once you puncture through the mouthpiece into the main chamber, it ends up you don't even need to slip and score. I've never had too many problems with it breaking. One time, actually that's not true. I've had one instance where I dropped it on the mouthpiece and it broke there. So, but for 90% of the other stuff, I have no problem. Okay, now we're taking these two popsicle sticks, right? I like these really thin ones. They're almost like coffee stirrers. And the reason I like these is they're kind of like they're thinner. Do I have any popsicle sticks I can show you guys? I do. Okay. Sorry, you're gonna hear a little noise while I'm going down here. Okay, so we got this little dude here, right? You guys see this? Popsicle stick. Like coffee stir popsicle stick, right? And so what's the problem is, let's see if I can get the thickness. Do you see how one's a little bit thinner than the other? The thinner one gives you this small little fine bead of air, where the thick one is a little bit wider of a bead of air. But you can use popsicle sticks, so if you have any of those crayon popsicles with all the different flavors, you guys know which ones I'm talking about, the best popsicles. Eat that and you can make a whistle if you got some clay on hand. Okay, so first thing we're going to take the side that seems like it's a little bit more flat. I'm going to put this side in. And we're set the flat side down. But do you see how I sanded one of the sides flat on this top? I just sand a side down. It can't be round. You have to have a flat side. And you'll see why in a second, right? But I'm going to stick this into the top of this little hole. Do you see how that little hole is not like, it's not in the middle, it's skating across the top? Think of it as like as you're pushing this little wooden stick through, you almost want to see the clay burrow through the surface, almost like how you see like a mole a mole's trail, that's kind of what you want this to look like as you're puncturing into the main chamber that's hollow right here, right? I like to push in till I start to see that little back piece come out, right? So then I know that I'm in this thing enough. Make sure I kind of have everything nice and tight there. Then you're taking the second thing with the flat side, and this is where the flat side is important. And you're going to imagine the thickness of your wall, right? So do you see how I made that really little dot there? You're going to imagine the thickness of the wall of the clay as you're puncturing into this, because you want it to be a flat surface, right? If you kind of have it funnel, it's going to change the way that the air hits that little wedge that we're going to be making. And then like those little ice creams that you'd get with the sticks, you're going to scoop a little ice cream in at, do you see how it's like at a 45-degree angle there? You're going to scoop that into that hole that we just made and scoop that out. And now we're going to start to refine this little wedge. A 45 is really important to have on this little wedge, right? Because you want it to really split that air. The more sturdy it is of a, or more steep, sorry. So like if it's kind of really steep, it's not going to split that air. So if you look and you think about how this whistle is making a sound, if you blew on a wedge, right, like this little thing here is like a little wedge. If I blow on this, it's making a whistle noise, right? You just can't hear it because there's no chamber that's allowing you for it to become auditorial, right? But how it looks like, imagine like you got a little like wavy squiggle line like this, and it hits this wedge. Bing! The wedge cuts that squiggle in half. So you got half that air coming out, half that air going in, and it's resonating like this super fast. So then when you give it this chamber to make it sound, it's going to have this, a really quick, and that's what's making that whistle sound, right? And so some whistles act a little bit differently than others, right? Some need to have like a little rounded circle to circle that air, because then the air itself, as it's circling through, cuts the air off, and as soon as it cuts the air off, now there's no air going in, so then the air can go back in. And so that's another way that a whistle can work. But anyway, I'm going to just keep on continuing here. I'm going to puncture through, because sometimes if you don't go deep enough into the surface, you won't actually see the little hole into the chamber. You want to make sure you see the hole into the chamber. And then I'm also looking at this little mini wedge, and I'm like, okay, that wedge is actually not very in line, right? The most important thing when you're making these whistles is how the air flows through to hit that wedge, and how nice that wedge is, right? If it's like a really kind of shoddy wedge and you got a lot of like little cracks in it, you're going to get some seepage, right? But sometimes the seepage is cool. Have you ever heard you guys are on your computers right now, so you guys can like look, but there's these Aztec death whistles, right? And so those are purposely made to be a little bit shoddy, so then when you blow really hard into it, it creates a different kind of like scream-like tone, right? And so sometimes it's like actually important to get your whistle to be a little bit off, because if you want it to have kind of a more awkward sound, right? But if you're just going for the typical normal whistle, a really nice sharp edge is going to be perfect for you. And then you got a little whistle there, right? And so there's a couple of things here is like when I'm looking at the inside, I know it's really, you can't really see. Can you see if I do this? I wonder if I do something like this and I flip this around. Does this help you guys see it all? It's not that much better, is it? Yeah, not that much better. But you can kind of see it's at a 45 and it's pretty flat there, right? But if you're looking at the inside and I have my, let me just put this in here. Do you see how I have that stick? It needs to be flat, right? If you have that not sitting flat and flush to that little hole, right? It's going to push air up, because if there's nothing on top of it, there's not a steady stream, because the air is hitting that edge and bouncing the air upwards. Does that kind of make sense? So you really want to make sure you have a flat spot to where that's leaving the mouthpiece hitting that little wedge there. And then another thing that I've been learning about too, right? So this is kind of, I'm getting a little bit too complex on these. I just got to start making them here, but I just wanted to explain it first for you guys, right? Is that when I'm blowing through the whistle, you have a pressure or a pressure line. Think of like a timeline, past and present. Well, this is low pressure, high pressure, right? So if I'm low pressure, like barely like I'm blowing like the little dandelion flap, right? That's low pressure sound. And then blow really hard, that's high pressure sound, right? Did you see how at the low pressure sound, it's not making the best of a sound, right? When you make a whistle and you want to have a lot of notes, say you want to make an ocarina, you want to make sure that your low sound to high sound makes a perfect sound all the way through, right? So you might want to fiddle with this little wedge on your mouthpiece a little bit so you can have that whole like breath of low to high pressure. Okay, so that's important if you're doing something like ocarina. But if you're making these water whistles, usually you got kind of a low pressure because the water is pushing the air. So it's not really a high pressure. So you're not all the way low. You're kind of more at like a that sort of sound. So I'd say that that's probably an okay whistle for this, right? But you'll notice like part of the fun is this is like you have a little faith in the sound, right? So when you go to bisque the object, sometimes you'll lose the sound a little bit because the clay is a little bit porous. But then when it's the clay gets vitrified and glass, like you kind of get that high chirping sound. It's not like the sound totally goes away because the air is still getting split, but there's nothing like just it's almost like the pitch is like ringing rather than kind of feeling a little bit raw or dented, right? Like a dented sound. Okay, anyway, that's a little tidbit on whistles there. They're really fun to make, you know, and this is something that you can do with just finding clay in your backyard, right? Like you might not be able to throw the clay in your backyard, but if you refine the clay through like maybe I should do a video on that one day, how to like just do your own little clay thing, you know. We'll do a test. I feel like that'd probably be nice because I think a lot of times people think that clay is a little bit inaccessible to them, right? Well, yeah, a little bit, right? But you can put some work into it and you can get it to work for you, you know. So, and I think just people don't really know how. So maybe if I can figure out a way to get that information to you guys could just make whistles with me. Do I ever eat clay? Only a couple times I've eaten clay. But yeah. Right here. Flip this upside down. Again, we're pushing this right on to this. And the reason is because, like how this wedge is flat with that mouthpiece, that's exactly what we want for that airflow to skirt right past that little wedge on the top there, right? Sometimes people kill the sound of their whistle because maybe their curve is rounded and then so that airflow is not hitting that wedge properly, right? Does clay ever bite back? Sometimes it does. Sometimes when you're on the wheel, the clay, it likes to fight you a little bit, right? Like think about working with clay is kind of like, you ever have a friend who's like really aggressive, you know, like, and that's all they want to do is just like get physical and like wrestle or something. Like I remember I had a friend as a kid who, well, even my friend in my undergrad, he was like, we'd get in an argument and it was just like straight to hands, you know, like we were just, I don't know, we were just angry. But clay is kind of like that angry friend that you're trying to like wrestle, right? You don't want to like, I mean, you want to hurt him a little bit because it's like, hey dude, like, come on, like we can't just get violent all the time. But you don't want to like hurt him like badly, you know what I mean? So that's like what clay is. You kind of like, you wanna work against the clay. You kind of want to fight it a little bit, right? But you're doing it in a present, mentally like stable way. Like you're not trying to like strangle the thing. You're just trying to show it you mean business, right? So somebody asked if I ever made my own clay. I've done that a couple times, yeah. Actually during the COVID times, right? This was like my second pottery class, right? We couldn't go into the studio for class, right? And I don't know, it was just a little bit, it was a little bit weird. Like I'm taking a pottery class and I can't even get on a wheel. What the heck? But the teacher, one of the projects she made us do was she made us go to a like any sort of little water thing and look for clay and then like refine it. So I can walk you through that process real quick. Like I went to like I was in the city, so I went to like, you know, sometimes like those sewer runoffs go to like these like little ravine type things and you see like all the clay along the walls. I went to like one of those places, right? And when I got there, I took a bunch of the clay from the side of that wall, and you can kind of tell what it looks like because it doesn't look like dirt, right? And some of it's a little bit wet, and it also will crack really easily. So sometimes if you just take that top surface crack stuff off, you can get some really nice clay. And then you're gonna dry it all out, right? So you wanna dry it all out, and then you wanna crush it up into like a powder, right? And then you're gonna pour it through like a sieve to sieve off all the debris, right? And then after that, you're gonna let it settle, pour off the water, and then, well, actually you're gonna mix it up again after that first sieving, and then sieve it through like a cheesecloth or a t-shirt will be good too. And so it's literally just such only like the really fine clay particles and none of the other debris gets into your little water clay mix, right? So it's kind of like a lot of sieving and like waiting. And then you're gonna take that and again, you're gonna wait until it's like a little bit dried, pour off the water on the top, and you're gonna take all the slurry or sludge, you're gonna wrap that in a t-shirt, hang it in a tree, and then it's gonna be drying from 360 all the way around. And then from there, you know, you got some workable clay. You just kind of manage it every once in a while. You feel it up a little bit and you're like, okay, like, is it ready? And you'll kind of know when the clay is ready. It's not like, you don't want it to be squishy. You almost kind of want it to feel like a little bit rubbery, right? But anyway, again, so we got our little first part pushed in there. We're going to make our second incision. Scratch a little hole, so there we go. Again, right at a 45-degree angle there. Your buddy is a clay miner in New York. What's NC? What state is NC? NC is North Carolina. Okay. Wow. Yeah, it's pretty cool. You should see the have you seen the trucks that they use for certain clays? And it's interesting because when your buddy's mining for clay, it's not just like the clay that I'm using. Like the clay that I'm using right now is a mixture of different materials and different clays from around, right? So your buddy's probably mixing like one specific type of clay in that location, right? And that probably is usually not for pottery people, it's for like industry. But when they do like, they'll have a truck, big huge shovel truck, these tires are the size of like a couple humans stacked up, right? It's crazy. But it's kind of a cool, but he has a cool job. I've always wondered, like, I think those people who do that stuff are not like pottery people ever, you know what I mean? But I wonder if there's anybody who is, you know, you should ask your buddy if he has any friends there that work with clay like at home. But I can't imagine that's the case. Anyway, so we got that little wedge in there. We're going to slowly pull this out now. And right now the clay is at the perfect consistency where it's soft, but it's not just going to be like, it's not like gooey, right? That's an important thing, right? When you're working with it, I want to be able to pull this out without moving, without the rest of this moving, right? Yeah, I think he sells to brick makers or something like that. Ah, that's pretty cool. You should ask him what the company he works for. What do they label the material as? Not a great sounding whistle there, right? So we're going to go back into here, right? And we're just going to play around with what we got going in here, right? So right there, it seemed like I got some clay that's not really working the way it should be underneath that little wedge. So we're going to go right back underneath. We're going to redefine this wedge. Make sure that we're a little bit more flat and straight on that mouthpiece to chamber connection. A lot better of a sound there, right? I'm also going to try to make this a little bit more flush below it. I just blocked that airflow now. But I just want to make sure. Alright, so now let's do our low to high test, right? Low. That's actually a really good low sound, right? So let's compare it to this low sound, right? You see how this one has more of like a sturdiness to the sound? Alright, now we're going to do this at high sound. Okay, that one's struggling at high sound a little bit. This one's not struggling, right? So you can tell that this guy's range is in this lower pressure radius, where this guy's range is a little bit higher in that pressure radius, right? So keeping that in mind, we're going to go and type, and not type, but put a little L on the thing of this whistle so we can tell that, okay, that's low radius, this is high radius. It will make sense, you know, it might not make sense for a while because I feel like I got to bring a couple of my water whistles home to really like show you guys, right? Okay, next. So again, we're just getting these whistles to work. So before, I'm not going to turn them into dragons today, but I would normally do that. I just have a lot of work I got to do today. So if I sculpt the dragons on this too, it would just be like, this stream would last way too long, and then I'd have to edit for like way too long. Let me know if this is an okay angle, like this is kind of a new angle working on the table. Because I normally I'd work on the wheel, but I think there's something that's a little bit better about having the table stuff here. And it's engaging with the space a little bit better as well, right? But, okay. Getting right over to the top here. This little mouthpiece is a little bit long, so we can cut this down, right? So I'm going to cut that down, saying okay. Yeah, okay, cool, I'll keep it like this then. Okay, so you can see again, flat on that top. Smoothing out the mouthpiece a little bit, right? I'm not slipping and scoring, but you definitely could if you felt like it was necessary. Again, I feel like when I puncture through the top of the whistle here, it seals that mouthpiece on there pretty nicely, right? Okay. Here you go again. Going not through the middle, right above it, right? And we just slice right through the top. And we're making sure we're going in straight and level, and hoping that we get right underneath that top surface of clay. You'll feel it puncture into this secondary chamber here, and you're going to wait until you feel it kind of push right to the back, and you'll feel it push against your finger, right? And so why do you want that is so when you go into this chamber right here, and you're keeping it level here, right? And you can scratch into that stick, and the stick doesn't bend upwards, right? And open up that hole, right? Now you're going to eat your little, you know, ice cream truck wooden spoon ice cream here at a 45, and then you get a little wedge, right? You're going to dance up that wedge. You want it to look nice and clean. Get a nice sharp angle. You don't want a steep angle. Kills that sound. Clean up around that rim a little bit. Alright. And let's open it up and see what we have on the inside. on the inside. You can see that you can't really see, you can see where the hole is, but it doesn't puncture into the chamber, right? We got to make sure we puncture into this chamber, and we go underneath of that little wedge, and we push this down. Here's another little whistle sound. This one's actually pretty nice right off the cuff. So we're not gonna do too much with it other than just maybe do one little refining here, right? Yeah, you could totally make an ocarina. On these ones I haven't really messed around with the notes, right? But okay, this one's actually has a bold, there's a bold sound to it, right? Like this one, it's kind of like a lulling, like where this sound, listen to this. It's like a singing, like it's louder. It's like it's happy. It's a happy sound. But listen to this one, like it's royal, bold. Does that kind of make sense? I hope you guys can hear that. I'm not just crazy. And you want to make a little hole on the side. Watch this. So you want to make a note. Just drill a little hole into the side here. There you go. This is a really nice sounding one actually. So I'm going to keep this one just like that. But let's do the low. That's a really good low sound actually. Let's do high. Also got high. This is a really nice whistle. So we'll call this one will be, we'll just say low. So then we know that it sounds good at a low pressure radius, even though it's pretty much a perfect whistle. At least perfect for what I'm doing, you know? Alrighty. Here we go again. We got a couple more that we have to make, and then we can get into the building of the whole construction, right? Hopefully by then these handles are soft or dry enough to go on the objects, but maybe not, right? This upside down. Push this into the surface here. I'm gonna cut this top. It's a little bit too long of a whistle here. Round this off. Smear this on there. Sometimes I'll use a stick to smooth that properly. I think that looks good. Longer stick underneath that surface. Make sure it's one line. Make sure it's level. Puncture through. Hold thumb on the back. Feel it through. Good to go. Right underneath. Find that wall thickness right on the interior of that wall thickness. Down. Hit that stick. Scratch off like a lottery ticket. Open that up just a little bit. Scoop from the ice cream with the wooden stick there. Lift. Okay, look at this. What do we got here? We gotta fix up this wedge a little bit. The wedge distance though is pretty much, looks good to me actually. You guys can't really see, but the wedge is looking pretty nice there, right? It's looking kind of clean. We'll give it one more little pushback. Let's open this up. I'm gonna say that, yep, looks like we don't see the chamber inside. We're gonna sneak right underneath that little wedge. Push down, give it a first test. Okay, This one seems like it's going to struggle out a little bit lower tone. So let's refine this a little bit. Repuncture through. Get underneath that little wedge there. Make sure you don't hit the wedge. And then bring that back. And redefine this little thing a little bit. Pull it just a little bit through. Now you're looking to see if along this top, is it flush to the mouthpiece. If it's not flush, make it a little bit flush. Oh. This is one to actually act weird. But once you make it flush, then puncture back through. Clean that up a little bit. Now pull through. Make that sound. Perfect. Okay. So again, low to high test here, right? Go low. That's okay. High. Good both ways. Are we going to make a little hole? We won't make a hole for now. We'll just do the low. Alright. This one is kind of not a low tone whistle, right? We need more of a high tone whistle. So this will put a high tone on there, so a little H, just so we remember. I feel like I don't really care if somebody sees like a little letter on my whistle afterwards. You could always just smooth it out, but I think it's kind of cool that you see like little glimpses into the process on the final result, right? Some people like to call it laziness. I like to say, like, I can imagine like some, like, you know those like dudes, it's usually like some guy with glasses and like a fancy scarf, and they're like really knowledgeable on a topic, and they're like, you can see by the way the seam presents itself on the lower portion of the object that it led to this being made this way, right? I can think about somebody, one of those guys saying to me like, oh, you can tell that the L here was an insight of what tone that, you know, Pottery Demon made this whistle in, right? To account for low tone. I don't really think that's gonna happen, but be kind of cool though, right? Smooth this out. Push this up against here. Squish that into the surface just a little bit, right? Alrighty. Smooth, 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 smooth. Looking good. Okay. This mouthpiece is a little bit too long, so we're going to cut this lower. Round that off. We're just looking at it right now, right? I got to smooth this out a little bit more. I feel like I did a bad job with this connection point, so I'm going to smooth out this onto the whistle here. I guess once that's smooth, it's actually looking okay, right? We're not too worried about, you know, how well it is. As long as it looks like it's attached, it's good enough. Like I said, I think that puncturing through into that interior chamber is the thing that's going to make it work, right? Smooth that out with some thumb taps. Right underneath this bottom edge. In, down, through, punctured into that wall, going through to the back. Again, pretty level, okay? Imagine that wall thickness. You're making that hole right there, look. I'm pushing into the stick. Stick is supported from being on both sides of that clay. Open this up a little bit, right? I'm not like going like this. I'm holding it at the base. I'm scratching up and down to open up that hole. Then I see that stick through, making sure it's level. Go in at a 45-degree angle there. Right in, and then lift up. Look at that. You got a little wedge. Nice little wedge. All right, let's investigate. What do we see down here on this wedge? We see that the wedge is pretty sharp already. It looks like it's a little bit shallow, so I can imagine that when I pull this out, I'm not going to be able to see into the chamber. So that seems to be a trend that I'm having right now. But I always think I'd rather have to deal with having more clay, right, to cut through than not having any clay there by going too low, and then you have to try to build up a secondary layer. It's always easier to remove than it is to add, in my personal opinion, on a whistle. Okay. It's not going to make a sound because I kind of hit that wedge, but it might make a sound. Let's hear. Yeah, I'm not making a sound. Hit that wedge. So let's go back in. So what I mean is that that wedge that splits that air, I tapped it, and so it killed that sound really quick. Okay, so we're looking again. I think we might get some sound out of this one now. There we go. It's actually pretty as is. We'll do a little hole on the side here because we want it to be a little bit of a higher pitch, right? Let's see if it still makes it sound. So too high of a pitch. So that tells you it's actually kind of more of a high tone whistle there. So all we got to do to fix this is you take a little chunk of clay, you stick it into that hole, you smear that over, seal that hole, and you're back to. But we do still want it to be a higher pitch, right? So I am going to investigate below my little table here to see if I have another tool, and if not, we will make a vertical hole rather than a circular hole there, right? So we're going to go right underneath. And again, you can see how I'm just poking through. See? And I think I like that sound. I'm going to go in again underneath. And we're going to see if we can make that pitch a little bit clearer by dancing up that whistle a little bit there, right guys? It's struggling a little bit. Can you guys can hear it struggling, right? Like it's almost like it wants to yell out more, but it just can't talk yet, you know? It's like a half-baked poem, right? Like we heard like 90% of the poem, but that last 10% of the poem. I like that. This is a good low tone now. Low tone, high pitch, right? Low pressure, I mean. Sorry, not low tone. Cool. I'm glad you guys can kind of hear it changing too, right? So there's kind of some fun little nuance to it, right? And don't forget, you can make them off purposely, right? Like you can kind of screw around with it. If you kind of like the scratchiness, like crawling, the struggling sound of the whistle, you can make that a part of the water whistle, right? Again, taking some clay, rolling this up. Okay. Flat along that top. Cut through too long of a little water whistle there. Our mouthpiece. Somebody says, "What's up, Mr. Pottery Wizard? Just making whistles. What's up with you?" It's a Sunday. What are you guys up to? Just chilling? You guys have work today? What's your What led you here? You know, what'd you do before? Long stick. Underneath that surface. Cool whistles, bruv. Have you fired any of them? And can they play a tune? Yeah, I have a bunch fired. Oh, they're all behind the curtain now. But I've made a couple of them. And they're not like really meant for playing. They're more so like parts of things. Like my whistles are never really to make songs. They're more to make sound, right? Sound and song are different. Does the struggling have to do with the clay in the chamber or the angle? It all has to do with the way that the air is hitting that wedge and kind of what that wedge looks like, right? Because if the wedge is kind of janky, maybe it's going to hit and make that whistle notes at a different kind of chance, right? And there's more of like an opportunity for it to have like a scratchy sound if the way that the air is getting split, like maybe it funnels out a little bit. So only at kind of like a certain angle of you blowing does it make this right kind of sound. So it's almost like it's wanting to make a sound, but it can't, right? Like it's not like it actually wants to, but like I hope that makes sense scientifically. Like you can almost feel like it's wanting to do something, right? Like it really, like there's something embedded in it that makes it feel like that. I'm just chilling nearly midnight here, gonna have some tea and sleep. That sounds awesome. I like sounds and instruments. I do too. I got these little, I'll show you guys something quick. I got these mallets here, right? I got these mallets. And these mallets are so dope, right? And why would they be cool? Is you can hit things with it, right? So maybe we'll take, I haven't used these, let's hear these little white mallets here. I don't know what these white mallets are. Let's pull these out. They're almost like, they remind me of like a raw, ooh, I got a texture ick there. You know, sometimes when things make a certain texture, they sound really weird. I got one of those just now. Okay, so let's take the sound of this bowl, right? Maybe this will sound cool. Not really cool, actually. It doesn't sound good, right? Yeah, we don't like that one. Maybe it's, we're not going to use this mallet. I feel like this mallet kills the sound. The hard one actually kind of works better because it makes like a nice ding. Okay, so watch this. I'm going to show you guys something that's kind of cool. So that is fired at cone 6, right? Now let's take like a nice high fire object. Let's see. That's kind of sounds nice, right? This is also high fire too. But this one's fired a little bit too hot. You can kind of hear. Okay, so I want you to hear the sound of the clay, right? I really want you guys to listen to the sound of the clay. Here. How do I pause this freaking music? Get this over here. Okay. So watch this. So this is cone 6. Da, da, and it kind of has this like, it's like a flatter sound, right? It's like, it's almost like it's like I'm hitting like more of a rock, right? But listen to this one. there's like a harder ring, right? Like flatter, right? Let's see if we can get one that's, I know it'd be good to ring, because I feel like the handle on the side of it kind of blocks in the sound. This one would actually probably be good to try too. That's a perfect one to try. Okay, so this is a cone 6 thing, but this one's pretty nice. I'm getting too distracted right now. Let's see. Do I have anything from a recent firing that's nearby? No, I think I only have... Oh, that's kind of a pretty sound. It's kind of hard to tell the nuances of these two, right? Alright, listen to this one. So you see how this is kind of like, sounds more dead? Right, so this is a clay that's been like higher melted, right? Right, so you see how it almost sounds like glass? You know, some of it has to deal with the shape and the thickness of it too, right? But also some of it has to do with how hot the thing was done, right? But something that is more glassy, or it does not necessarily heat 1-to-1, right? Because this clay is actually fired at a lower temp, but the cool thing about it is that there's a lot of iron in it, so it's fluxing the clay body a little bit more. So it's a little bit more vitrified. That's what they call vitrified, right? I'm like, hello. But isn't it kind of cool how like actually the heat of an object can change its sound too? I know it's a little bit funky, but I think it's pretty cool. Anyway, back to whistle making. Let's see, what are you guys talking about? This one side of the vessel might change the tone also. Oh yeah, I guess that's true too. The one's a B note inside volume. Oh yeah, the volume. Light blue, one between A, C, and C sharp. Wow, do you have like perfect pitch or something? All right. How do I go back? We want to get our music back here. Come on. All right, guys. I feel like a little bit more calm, right? Let's get some calm vibes. You know? Let's make something here. Let's clean off a little area. Like, I get a lot of these little, like, boogers. Like little clay boogers in there. And you just kind of have to, like, push them out of the way here, right? I have a guitar, I can play the notes, they are almost in tune. Whoa. I've always wanted to learn how to play guitar. Let's move this off to the side here. And the type of clay. I had a guitar. We already just read that. Probably a digital tuner. Oh yeah. That'd be cool. I should get a digital tuner. I think you probably can get an app too. So he said, "Hello, sir. How's the day treating you?" Pretty good. I'm just making some whistles right now. How about yourself? I feel like today felt very quiet. You know, I was teaching today, but I don't know. I got a long drive into work, so it just felt really quiet. It's a little gloomy where I'm at these days, but gloomy's not bad. Just lounging around per usual. That's good though. I feel like lounging around is a perfect time to pick up a new little hobby to be interested in. I feel like I've been seeing a lot of things about Legos recently. I was like one of those Lego kids. I want to start getting into Legos again, but I don't know. I can't justify the purchase yet. Lego sets are expensive these days. I'm pretty surprised. I knew they were expensive when I was a kid, but I don't know. They just seem a little bit more like, I feel like you could get like 2 Lego sets you could get for the same cost of like a video game or something. Now it's like Lego sets are like more expensive than like groceries for a week, you know? It's kind of crazy. Open this. Get pushed down. I don't think it's going to make a sound this first try. Actually, it'll make a sound, I think. No, it won't. Let me go right underneath here. Let's see what's going on. Looks like it was plugged up a little bit there. Let's go back down and make sure our wedge is really nice and sharp, and make sure we get a flat spot there that's not pushing the air down into the chamber rather than allowing it to hit that wedge and go out, right? So making sure these things are all really nice, level, in line can sometimes be the only thing you need to do to get the piece to make sound again. Look at that, right? Low tone, here we go. High pressure. Has struggles with high pressure, right? You guys can kind of feel that, right? Like it's not like letting the air out, right? It's like it was punched in the stomach, right? And it has a breath full of air, but it can't let it out, right? Okay. Let's make it a little bit of a higher tone. There we go. We like that. Am I making the Aztec death whistles? No, I'm not making the, I'm making, have you ever seen those Peruvian water whistles? I'm making water whistles. So I'm just making a normal whistle, but I think if you were to do the Aztec death whistle is like a high pressure whistle, like the full breath, full blow, you get sound, right? So you need to be in that high pressure radius to make that work. And your water whistle never is producing that much pressure to activate one of those things. But there's also like the European little bird water whistles, right, where you pour water in and you're blowing air through a mini whistle, but the whistle is determined not by the chamber is the thing that holds the water. The whistle happens within this small tube, right? And so the whistle, as you fill it up with water, as you push through, changes the volume as bubbles flow through the water. So those are really cool too. There's a lot of different little whistles that you can make. But anyway, we got 3 more whistles to do, and then we can go to attach into the vessels here. How's our handles doing? Oh, actually, oh, whoa. This is like getting dry. Oh wait, I might have just damaged that whistle. Yeah, these are getting dry. I'm gonna spray the bottoms of those. I gotta actually work quicker. I didn't think the handles were gonna dry that fast, guys. Ooh, okay. That's all I do is I just hit it with some water, and then I'll wait a couple seconds, it'll absorb, and then I hit it with water again, and that usually does a good enough job to keep it a little bit more hydrated and give me some more time to work on these whistles here too. Pushing in, get that flat on that top edge. Awesome job, guys. Aztec death whistle would go crazy. It's so interesting. Where'd you guys hear about the Aztec death whistles? I think the first time I saw it was a YouTube video, and it's like there are these like guys who they're like using one. It looks like they're in a museum or something. YouTube Shorts. Okay. I do follow a lot of whistle makers, I feel like. I'm subscribed. There's this one Russian lady who makes these like whistles out of like a cut log, like a log is cut in half and then carved out and then like sealed, and then like these little box whistles. They're so like beautiful of a object, you know. They just feel really like they feel like a healthy object. Like sometimes when I look at objects nowadays, like objects kind of look like sick, right? Like I'll look at, I'm not like throwing shade towards like big like brands or anything like that. I just gotta tell you that. But like you like pick up like a water bottle like that you have at like a sports game or something. Like they feel like they've been like, they're kind of like sick, like a sick object. Not like sick as cool, but like it's just, it's like an abused form, right? That's how I think about it. And so, but these whistles that this lady makes, they're like so full of like life. That's the best way I can explain it. Does that make sense? We're making whistles here. Sterile, yeah. There's also, if you guys want to see really cool whistles, look up Stone Whistle. He has some really good videos on these Inato flutes that he makes. They're like resonating flutes that have like are a chord, so they harmonize with each other or something. They're really cool. And they're 3-chamber flutes. Usually anytime I make like a flute that has more than one chamber, it just sounds like a train whistle. But we are making whistles right now. It's so funny, everybody's talking about no, I haven't. I kind of made one, but like, I was taking a class and my teacher was showing me how to make them. This was a really long time ago, but it doesn't really, it doesn't sound the same. I was saying earlier, those are like high pressure whistles, you know, the Aztec whistles, death whistles. But we're just making the whistles for our water whistles that we're going to be finishing up here. You know, I think too, like, one of the reasons why I started making the water whistles is, like, I feel like so often in the pottery world, what's the word? Like, function is very dominant, right? Like, function is kind of like slathered all over the making process, you know? And so not that I think like function's bad. By all means, function's powerful, right? It can convey a message too. Like you can use function as a design element to tell a story, for example, right? And so function's cool, but I feel like sometimes when we think of function, we think of plates, we think of bowls, we think of like a very specific subset of functional objects, right? So there's something that's cool about an object that's made to be functional, but the function is to make a sound rather than functional as in like eating, you know, on a plate, you know. I think that's one of the big reasons why I started making it. This is kind of a bad whistle, right? So what are we going to look at here? We're looking at the wedge. Wedge looks clean, but then we're looking at this part where that hole first meets that chamber. I'm like, it's not really level, and it's also crooked a little bit. It's angled. Okay, so let's try to re-level that out, and then let's fix that little bottom part and see if we can get a better hole into hitting that chamber there. Sorry, what do you guys say? Is this pottery inherently satanic? Is that because of the pottery demon thing? No, you're good, dude. I see, I sense that your heart isn't in the death whistle. The water whistle is where it's at. Yeah, I mean, I think yeah, totally. I really like the water making the sound too, and I'm thinking about it in like, I've just been dabbling in the idea of doing a show where you have a bunch of these like little structures, like they're like these little like anchoring seesawing structures, right? But they're mini and they're kind of like a table, so they're like right, like if you're standing up, they're right here, right? And you can just kind of like, you can just tilt, right? Maybe there's a little anchor that tilts it, or like a little wheel. And so you can tilt it while not having to, and like have people interact with sound and the object without having to touch the object or having to put your mouth on something. Because like to ask people to put their mouth on something in like a gallery show, people are already kind of standoffish to the idea of touching the work a little bit. But I think a wheel can inspire a little bit, like a wheel that you use. You touch a wheel, like a wheel has a metaphor, it has a connotation to a function of turning, right? And then you get rewarded from the turning, from the whistle tilting and making a sound from left to right. And then you don't even have to work with people like in getting past the idea like, oh, hey, put your mouth on this little mouthpiece, right? Like, no, yeah, right. In a post-COVID world, no way that's gonna happen, right? Somebody said I look like Scarlett Johansson with a beard. Dude, you just pissed off a lot of Scarlett Johansson lovers with that. That's so funny. Okay, anyway, let's see now. Yeah, a little bit better of a whistle there, right? Alright. Maybe I gotta be a little bit more quiet. You know? Oh, that's not somebody coming down the steps. That's somebody. The dryer's going on. I'm in the basement right now. Alright. That made me laugh. Oh, you like that with my wheel theory? I appreciate it. That description of bro is insane. Yeah. That's hilarious though. That's a nice one. Okay, let's go low. Even good at a low sound. Okay. So this will be a low whistle. See if we can get a little bit higher pitch. Maybe a little bit higher of a pitch here. Perfect. Okay. Gotta get low on this one. I don't think we hit one on the last one there. Come on, chill out. Yeah, we didn't. But this one is there. This one is also a low one. That's a nice one too. Is there a trick to making whistles? Like an ocarina is on my to make list. Yeah, were you here when I was explaining the high and low pressure thingy? Let me know. If not, I can kind of go over that again. I think that's really the key to making an ocarina. Because like these can essentially become ocarinas. Like the construction of it's like a little bit different. You missed it. Okay. So this is what I've been writing on all these, right, recently. So this is high pitch. So that means this is your air pressure rating, right? So between here, when it's really low, can it make a sound? How good is that sound? Is it a bright sound? Is it a loud sound? Is it struggling? If it's a bold, strong sound at low pressure, right? Then you're gonna go over down to here at high pressure and go, oh wait, you're actually not gonna blow like soft. You right? High. And it makes a bold, strong sound. It's not struggling at all. It doesn't feel like can't let all that air out. It feels pure, right? You're gonna have to be able to make a lot of notes if you have those two areas, right? On the flip side, you got one that's just a low pressure and can only kind of make sounds at low pressure. You're only gonna get like 1 or 2 notes, right? But if you have a full like scale of pressure there, you can make a lot more notes. Hope that makes sense. But that's my key. And obviously, like the larger the chamber, the lower that whole entire tone area is going to be, and the easier it's going to be able to distinguish the whole size for your different pure notes, right? So like you'll see anybody who makes those like those anato flutes or harmonizing flutes, they'll have a volume mold that's made so that they line up properly to the holes that they're making into the thing. So there's kind of like there's a little bit of a science to that too. Maybe not like a science, but like a maker's quality to that. Like a little maker's hack, right? I was stalking that stone instruments guy's channel for a little bit. Sometimes if you do pottery, I'm stalking your channel a little bit, you know. I like to see what people are making. Just because it's interesting, you know. And sometimes, like, a lot of pottery videos, especially some of the really good ones, they barely get, like, any views, right? There's this guy who I think he's in, like, Thailand or something. He has this beautiful YouTube channel where it's, like, one video will be, like, him, like, feeding, like, a squirrel, right? And so squirrel's answering, and then he's like, here, squirrel, like, have this. And the squirrel's just sitting there. Really cool, right? And then the next video, he's like doing this beautiful like bottom hand like pull from underneath with the top hand over top, bellying out an object to make this huge jar, and like gets like no views, you know. It's such a cool video though. So it's really sad. Okay. Fascinating description. I think you might want to make more flutes or ocarinas. I detect a bit of enthusiasm. Oh, me, enthusiastic. They're just, I just think that they're interesting objects that use pottery techniques, and like there's opportunity to do more things on the wheel, right? Like making the bases on the wheel and then doing this by hand, and even trying to make these off the wheel. It's like a fun like way to try to adapt a process to the wheel, right? It's kind of like a little bit of a challenge to see like, oh, okay, like how do I do this like on the wheel? Because I haven't seen a lot of ones like these like done on the wheel. A lot of them are hand built, coil built. And so I was like, how do I adapt this to like my making style? How do I adapt it to my like process, like with the flowers and the folds and, you know, like throwing off the hump now that I've been doing a lot of. Like, how can I make all this stuff kind of like fit together in a form? And so there's a lot of these elements can come together on these little like water whistle sculpture things, right? Because they like can hold a lot of my parts and they don't look too off, but they're also obscure and hold function. I just think that they do a lot of the things that I'm wanting a vessel to do, or like not wanting a vessel to do, but like wanting to give to a vessel, right? Like sometimes I think when you're making things, you're trying to give like too much to the vessel, right? Like the vessel can only take so much of your input before it falls apart, right? Like I think everybody knows that feeling for themselves when all of a sudden they get to this point and anything after that, it just starts, oh, what's going on? Like, why is that not working, you know? And so it's like really feeling when to get to that point, right? And that's kind of the fun part about doing those water whistles, is like I gotta kind of find that. I think that's really the enjoyable part about making, really. Okay, let's see. This one's definitely not gonna make a sound here. You can see that's like struggling a little bit. It kind of reminds me of like a sheep, like bah, right? Like I remember, like when I hear that sound, I think of like a little baby sheep, just like bah, you know, like just like has no soul, like type of animal. So we shouldn't insinuate our own intentions into the vessel. Well, it's almost like the vessel, like it really has a certain volume. Like there's the volume that it actually holds, but then there's the volume that it like conceptually can handle, right? And I think about that when I'm making is like there becomes a certain point where you go kind of overboard with the form and it does too much where you kind of lose any sense of an idea being associated with what you're doing on the vessel, right? So like there's like a limit on how much creative juices your objects can hold too, I think, right? And if you disagree with that, that's totally fine, right? But like for me, I feel that though. Like I feel like there's always been a point in which like when I'm making, like it falls apart. So that's kind of what I mean. Like it's this like it's fun to have bad things happen in your process, right? Like I just think like if you're doing something, this is me getting judgy, right? But if you're doing something that just like there's no way you can fail, right? Like it doesn't really feel like I'm doing anything. That's kind of happy. I like this little sound here. Make it a little bit higher pitch. I've been liking a lot of the higher pitch ones recently. It's kind of like a crying bird. That's so funny. This is a low tone though, low pressure. bone tone. Let's see. I don't think I like this. This is too, like, feels too normal of a background sound. I want something a little bit weird. I want something that's gonna make me, like, be like, what the heck am I doing right now? I don't even know what this is, but we're playing this. Okay. Wait, maybe not. This is too, it's too powerful. I want something like a little bit sad, like, but I don't want it to be too loud either. This sounds good. Like, this sounds like music that you'd, like, explore, like, an area in a video game too, you know, like, right? Like, Gregorian chant. I would do, I love listening to that stuff low key. But, reminds me, like, when I was a kid and I'd go to, like, church, right? There'd always, like, I'd go there on a Sunday or something, or, you know, sometimes we had it for school, and we'd be like, it's in the morning, you're tired, right? You're just like, oh, like, come on. And then you sit there, and you're just waiting, and then all of a sudden these, like, old geezers pull up, right? Because they're retired. So what are they gonna, they're gonna go to church, right? Come to church, and they sit in the back, right? And you hear these guys, and all of a sudden these hymns come on, right? These guys' voices just envelops you, right? As you're sitting in the pews. There's something about, like, this, like, old dudes just chanting that is, like, just like those hymn sounds. It's crazy. So yeah, Gregorian chant is cool, but it just might be a little bit too much for what I'm doing right now. This is a philosophy stream, dressed as a pottery stream. I salute you for that, man. I can dig it. You think it's that much about philosophy? Interesting. I feel like I haven't been working too fast. I've been talking too much. Today, when I went to teach I teach this chess board class, right? So, like, all my students, we make, like, a theme, and then we do a chessboard and our pieces for that theme, right? The theme I'm doing is these farmers versus these aliens, right? And it's just kind of fun because they like to, like, help me out with my ideas on things, you know, and, like, then I can be, like, a pacemaker for them too, right? But anyway, my farmer, which was my king for my one side to fight against the aliens, I looked at him today and he was just, like, shattered. And it wasn't shattered because he, like, cracked from drying. He was dropped. He was definitely dropped. Somebody dropped him. He was all broken. So I had to make a new farmer today. But I enjoyed that farmer. It was really one of my favorites. But I made a new one and he was better. He was better. So my student even told me. No, I just teach at a couple art centers. That's what I do. So it's kind of fun though. And it's also funny because I thought, like, there was a bunch of, like, kids who play chess, right? But all the kids in the class, I feel like they haven't really played chess at all, but then, like, wanted to, like, come for this chess building class which is actually kind of cool, right? And so it's interesting to see what sort of ideas they get for pieces, right? Like one of my students has their knights is like a manta ray that's like sitting down, like if it was like a cat, right? So it's like this little manta ray, like with the big wings, and it's like sitting down, has like its tail, looks like it's like a cat's tail, you know? And they're actually kind of like really well sculpted, right? And it's cool how like these kids will like think of glazing an object, right? Some of them think like literally like this color it has to be on the shoulder pad, but then there's other kids that be like, okay, let the glaze exist as a pattern, as texture, right? And let me make a basic form on the top for that glaze to really talk, right? So that's what this student did. They're good at making like a strong, simple form that accepts glaze really well, right? So I'm excited to see how they turn out. Ah, thank you, what you said. That's nice. What's my favorite sculpture I made? Actually, I don't have it here. My favorite sculpture I made was actually when I was asked to do a donation piece, right? So one of the places I work at, they have like a strong a group of donors that donate to like help the school like function, right, and the institution function, right? And so they will ask some of the artists that work at the place, they'll ask them, hey, like, do you think you can make a piece for the donors, right? Like, it'd be kind of cool if we can give back to them using somebody who like works at the place, right? So they asked me to do that, and so they asked me, and I was like, oh, cool, like, let's do something. I was doing this chess class, and so I was making these pots that kind of almost looked like towers, right? Like a castle tower. So I made a couple, like a castle tower, and then I was throwing knights because I was working on a throne chessboard at that time, and I made these little throne knights, and I made a bunch of extra, and I was like, oh wait, like it's like a herd of horses. So then I made this castle, and so this rook and these small horses like into a little scene, and I did one of my drooping flowers. Like you make a really heavy flower with a thin kind of handle-like base or like stem, and the weight on the top actually bends in the kiln, like because the clay's getting hot. It's like literally melting. So it's melting, so it bends in the kiln, and it drooped right over the death of these horses mourning this other horse. And so that's probably one of my favorite sculptures. It was just really cool. Like it actually it felt like it was a complete idea. You know, sometimes when you make pieces, they feel like they're level 1 ideas. That one felt like it was like you know when an artist releases a single, that was like the single, you know. Struggling a little bit, right? I have a video somewhere that I could just show you guys. It's just I haven't set up. I have this like bank of like a bunch of my short format edited stuff. For those moments where you guys ask about something, I can literally just be like, blah, 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 and then it pulls up, you know. I gotta set this one down. That's a good one. That's a nice low pressure one. Okay, the whistles are done. Okie dokie. We're just going to get all this stuff here. If you want, here, let me get the thing that we're going to be doing out first. So we're going to do one of these guys first, because this feels like it's a little bit closer to being ready than some of the other ones. Listen to this guy. Hello, dude. Look at you. It's a little bit too wet, though, to be honest. So we're going to be doing this stuff here in a second. Anyway, let me look for this little video and see if I can play it for you guys. Because I think it'll be in my overlays. Media source. Properties. Browse. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it, guys. I'm looking for it. Yeah, I don't think so, guys. Sorry. We tried. I apologize, friends. I'll try to find it when I go back upstairs to edit tonight. So I haven't even shown you guys the second batch either. I don't know if you guys seen my latest short on the YouTube here, but my latest short is actually a pretty cool video of all the ones that I trimmed and finished those cups from a week and a half ago. I'm trying to look for, I have a little, like a rotating wheel head. I can't remember what I did with it. Would I take it upstairs for any reason? Oh, I know where it's at. That's so embarrassing. Whatever. So we got the two parts. Looking here. Okay, what do we got in here too? We just want to open up all these things and just explore our options here, right? Okay. We actually, let's go small first, because this is a little bit drier and ready to be worked with, while these are a little bit too wet still, it feels like. Right, like these just need some time hanging out. Maybe we'll put these on the board, actually, because they're so soaked. Hopefully they can get some better airflow around them. That would mean, do we kind of like this small little dude with us? This kind of looks, I kind of like the look of that. All right, let's just do it. Go. Let's go. This is the fun part when you work in parts and segments, is you literally just, now it's like you have a field day, right? Shelf. So you can see I have my parts here. So you can see I have some tubes and some squiggles. And then in this one, I have some flowers. Right? So here, look at the flowers. I'll show you guys these flowers here. So look at these. So I got these flowers. You see, I got these flowers here that I can set on the sides of these. So I don't know if you guys remember these, but a bunch of little flowers. Kind of fun, right? So that's like all these parts that I've been throwing, like now it's time that we can like play with them a little bit, right? How cool is that? Look at this and this. I'm making tea over here. There's one, a couple of my friends. What Japanese couple. It's a spectacular piece. Interesting. How do you send out shorts when you are live? Timer? Me? Yeah, I have it all. Usually what I'll do is like after tonight, I'll edit for the rest of the night until I sleep, and I'll schedule them all at a, like for as far along as how many clips I get out of a stream, right? And so sometimes like there's some cool moments that I get to kind of like see again during the stream. Like somebody will ask something, and there's kind of like a little bit of this cool, fun dialogue that happens actually between me and you guys. And so I like to rewatch a lot of this stuff. Anyway, desk, mini wheel. Okay. So we're just looking at this right here. What do we have? What is this looking like here for us? Does this tube look good? It's a little bit big. This is probably going to be our smallest out of all the water whistles. So remember that really small tube that we made yesterday? Let's see if this little tube, look, it's similar to the size of this top part here. Oh, it's not even aiming over there. I gotta also be careful because any of this stuff on the crumbs or the boogers on the bottom are now going to be stamped into this. But I feel like that's a good size, you know? Okay. So I kind of hit that a little bit weird. Let's get our little fettling knife. And let's cut this stuff up here, guys. Actually, we'll probably use that. And the fettling knife is down here. And we need my little wet brush here. Do you want the big one or the small one? We'll go. We'll have both. How's that sound? We'll do both. I think having both is important. We gotta soak these though. Okay, because you got one 10 minutes ago? Interesting, because I mean, I wonder how that works, because I haven't posted a new short since maybe yesterday or the day before. Because I wanted to let the batch, which is the collection of all those shorts, just have a day by itself to just have its own thing. Because sometimes when you post shorts, you like kill the viewership of it. Like I post like 2 shorts for a while. For the past little session here, it was every 2 hours I was posting a short, right? And I think that you guys probably only get to see, if you are on shorts at all, probably see like maybe 1 out of 2 days of shorts. But I don't know. I just feel like it's just how it works for my content, I guess. Okay. So here we go. We got this little... Got this here. Is this looking okay here? Yeah, this looks good to me. So let's start. Something I'll do. Get a little sponge. Squeeze the sponge, but then scoop some slip into your sponge here from the bottom. So some of that goopy slime there. You want to dip that in on both sides. And then you want to get these. I wish I had my little turntable here, because when I have that turntable here, it's kind of nice to see me rotate this. This is where I probably should be just doing this on the wheel, to be completely honest with you guys. Maybe I'll do that here, because I think that's actually really what I should be doing. Okay, let's go over to the wheel then, guys. But you can see how there's like these little circles on there. And if you can't see, wait 1 second and I'll show you on the wheel here. Camera A. Zoom. Alrighty, we'll set them like this for now. I know that's not really the way it goes, but camera A. That'll be good. So let me know how this is going to look for you guys. Is this a little bit better? I feel like it makes more sense for me to build these over here. The whistles, I think it made more sense over there. But that's kind of the fun part about this setup, is I can be sort of change things on the fly there. I actually have one more whistle I had to make, and I don't know if it was hiding from me, I guess. But we can do that in a second here. We kind of all set up for this, so let's do this for right now. Okay. Again, so flip this over. You can see these little holes are, right? So that's what we're going to take our hole punch. Oh, where's my hole punch, though? Did I leave that somewhere? This is my hole punch, but I had one smaller one. Maybe this will be okay. We'll see. This might be a little bit too big for this one, though. It is a little bit too big. I guess for this one, we will use a drill bit. I hate to use a drill bit, but sometimes you just gotta do a drill bit. So, taking a drill bit, and I also, when I use the drill bit, I usually like to wait until it's a little bit harder, but you can do it right now, right? Well, it's still like a leather hard, but you just, as if you're just drilling a little bit. Do you hear how it kind of, did you guys hear that it kind of farted at me? Because this is a sealed object, right? So once you open this up, it actually like releases some of that air that was in there, right? So it's kind of cool that it does that, actually. Okay. Right here on this side, got two little holes there, right? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to scratch around these little holes here, right? Oh, you guys could actually hear it? That's so epic. Okay. Wait until the next one. So, wait until we see the next one fart at us. It's kind of funny, right? Like, isn't it cool to have like parts in your process that like make you laugh? there's always something I like to like bake a little bit of like interest into the process, right? Like if I'm making something, it's not making me laugh, well, I'll put a few jokes in there, why not? Okay. So what we'll do first is we'll just attach this on there. If I remember correctly, I had this side over here. It's crazy like this. Okay. And we have this side like there. And we're going to attach it first, and then, since the clay is a little bit soft, watch how I'm just slowly wiggling them towards each other, and so that they can nest kind of and warp this. That's why it's important to have this soft, because we want it to sort of warp itself into place, right? For the structure of the object, that could be a bad thing, but for the look of having it kind of sit flat and then seal properly, sometimes like this little hole here can like not line up properly and kind of screw you over, right? Some things to think about too is like, you see how it's tilting upwards towards it now? That may have an influence on the way you interact with it, right? So sometimes that's kind of a weird thing to keep in mind when you're doing this stuff, right? Alrighty. And this clay's too hard. So after, the clay gets too hard, I won't even use it as a bonding clay, right? So I'm going to get some fresh clay, some wet clay. I want it to be almost like tacky to my fingers. That's how wet I want the clay to be. Like I want it to feel like it's kind of like sticking to my fingers and I'd have to go wash them off, right? That's a good bonding clay, right? Go around. And some people would say this is where you want to slip and score the clay, right? And they'd be right. This is where you'd normally want to slip and score. But I'm pretty confident in the fact that I had these all in wet boxes, that they're all around the same wetness in that area. So as long as I scratch through deep enough through those layers with this bonding clay, I find that's enough to actually, here, let me press this in a little bit more. And if I put it back into the wet box after, it's like the perfect amount of material and a wetness that it just bonds itself. Okay. And something too, if this ever pops open during the process, nothing's stopping you from putting a little bit of my favorite stuff, JB Weld, and fixing it. But usually I find that if you just attach things while it's all the same wetness, you're usually okay. But you can see how I'm just kind of going over that bonding material too, and through those cuts and smoothing it with my brush here. You actually can't see me doing it because I wasn't paying attention to the camera angle. But here we are. Okay. Okay. Another snake. Yeah, no worries. I'll see you around. Okay. So, usually I would say that this bond here is probably good enough at this point, you know? But, anyway. That's why the paintbrush is like my favorite tool, because after a certain point, when the clay is so soft, it is just like a thick paint. Alright, sweet. I kind of like the way this is looking here. Okay. So bond, complete. Next up, handle, right? So we need a handle to branch these two together. Okay, let's see. This is getting really dry, so we got to spray that. This is good on this bottom part, so we'll take this. This will be the handle. We got to spray a lot of this stuff here because this is all getting too dry. So yeah, all getting too dry here. I'm doing this over by mini wheel. Camera B. So you see how I just had to spray all that? Then we have this one little handle here that's pretty soft. Camera A. Okay. So this is going to be a connection between these 2 points here, right? How I like to do these is I like to have them kind of fold over. And have this kind of fold over. So you get like this little like band here, right? Look at that. Okay. So you can see too, I didn't squeeze that curve into existence. I allowed that curve to exist, and I kind of like worked on the edges to get that curve, right? I didn't like bend this with each one of my fingers, and when you use the ends to do things like that, and you use a natural kind of give of the clay, you can get a pretty even looking handle from just being a little bit more intentional with how you're interacting with it, right? Okay. Gotta get some clay on here. Tap these 2 sides. We say, okay, where is this gonna be? We're gonna touch these on there. We're saying, okay, thank you very much. Get this. That'll go down a little bit, but we have those marked. Hit our marks with our needle tool here. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Scratch, 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 scratch. And okay. And so do you see how I can get like a pretty nice tight curve on this? I kind of screwed up this side a little bit. But I have a nice bond and a good fold, so I can really push some pressure down on there. So that's going to be a nice little handle to hold on to there, right? And it's not really meant to hold on to, but it exists there. We just need something supporting this mess down here, right? Okay. So now we gotta mark where we want our little whistles, right? So Of course, we're going to want one of them up here somewhere, right? And so I would say that you know what? How are we going to do this? I like the idea. Let's do it from the top. Okay, let's do it from the top. Let's make the small whistle quick while we still are in the remembering factor of making right now, that we have to finish the things that we create or we start. And I'm gonna go and think about what we want to do here, because part of me is thinking like, yo, how cool would something like this be, and then have a flower off the side? Like that seems cool to me, right? It seems cool to me. I don't know what you guys think, but that seems like an area that I would enjoy exploring. And so then we can use, again, some of those parts that we've been making back into the object to create something kind of like, I hate the word spontaneous, but spontaneous, right? Like, I think the word spontaneous sometimes is a little bit too overused. So maybe I gotta think of a different word, like a little bit more, like ice cream sprinkles, right? It's a little bit more like something like I'm gonna get surprised, right? Or like mystery flavor dum-dums, right? Like there's this anticipation. Okay, here we go. Do that top layer. Do that side. Where's that other stick? Oh, there it is. Oh, I almost just fell backwards. I sat on the edge of my thing. A bouquet of whistles? Yeah, totally like a little bouquet of whistles. I love that idea. And you have to give them water so then they can grow, or they can grow as like a parallel idea to like make sound, right? Like the object grows with sound, right? Sound is a growing thing. I feel like that's actually a really good idea. You should make a bouquet of whistles and make them water whistles. No sound, okay. So a couple things. So underneath this wedge here, you can see that the clay is interfering with airflow. Go back underneath, go right back into this bottom area. Cut this off. And again, let's bring this back over to the wedge here, right? Now I'm over there, cutting around. Let's see, okay. Looking nice so far. Now let's slowly try to pull this tongue out of the chamber there. Tongue, I mean, popsicle, but it kind of does look like a tongue sticking out at somebody. Right, and this is the mouthpiece, right? So it does kind of look like a tongue. It's almost like the whistle is taunting you while you're making it, right? And like, it kind of wins when you can't make it make the sound that you want. It's teasing you. It's like, what's up, loser? You can't make a sound out of me. And then we say, shut up. Bam. Okay. I gotta find that hole punch, because this is gonna get real annoying real quick if I don't find that hole punch. Come on, memory. Come back to me. Really? I don't have a single one? That's crazy. It's gotta be in my car then. I took it to one of my classes to show my students. I guess I just didn't bring it back. That's so sad. That's okay. We can kind of use this tool to widen it up a little bit anyway, though. So, like, it actually didn't really work the way I wanted it to. That, I think, is going to work a little bit better there. And you see how that support on this top with that helps it out a little bit? All right, let's get our whistle here. Okay, let's see if this fits in there. Yeah, we're okay. That's actually a good fit. So we're scratching. And we're going to scratch inside of this too. And then as this handle firms up, it's going to stabilize this a little bit more, right? So that's kind of the fun part about it. We will be getting a little bit of slip on here. Some clay slip right around that surface there. Start cutting into that surface too, right? Some more slip. Okay. And I'm always going to point the whistle back towards the side, right? Because if you're pouring the whistle, if you have the whistle facing out this way, right, like over here, you're tilting it this way, so you're pitting that top precipice of this hole over on this side, so then it's going to dump water out, almost like a teapot would. That's actually how you'd make it. You'd have to make a spout that's a whistle. That's actually really how you would do it. That'd be crazy if you could make this into a teapot. That would be pretty crazy. But I really think that you could do that. The whistle exists, but then there has to be a spout connected to it. The spout could just be the hole to make the sound lighter, right? So maybe making it larger. I really think it would work, y'all. I don't know if I'm going to do that on these ones, but sorry, I'm just trying to work out the logistics of that in my head. Because you'd have to make a whistle that the spout, the hole for the spout, still allows for it to make a whistle. And then I'm wondering is if once you start getting a full seal on the edge of that spout, it would change the tone of the whistle. So that's just it's a little bit interesting. Definitely, I think it's possible. Okay. So you're gonna get the whistle on the other side now. In the meantime, oh, what? Ka-chow. You guys didn't tell me I had that little black line cutting off the top of the thing the whole time. Sorry, guys. I was like totally giving you a bad visual what I was doing there. Okay. What else do we got? I thought we had one more Oh, okay. Well, I guess if you didn't notice, all good then. So we got some... Camera B? Shelf? So we got a lot of stuff here, right? We got a lot of really interesting little parts. We can do something here. Camera A. Like, doesn't this just look like it belongs there? Like, there's something about... Like, there's something about that that just seems so powerful to me. Okay. I know we weren't going to sculpture it. Wait, there's a crack on the... Wait, on what? Is it me or does... Chocolate... Ornaments. Oh, yeah. It is like the ribbon candies. Yeah. Totally like that. It's such a shame. I think we have to make little dragons. I'm so pissed. You're scrolling past, now you're locked in. So funny. Zoom. Alright, guys. So we're making a little dragon guy here, okay? Just gonna chill with you with this music for a bit, fall asleep, long weekend. Hope your week was good. Thanks for popping in too. Oh, somebody asked. Oh, you guys have actually been asking me some questions. What's the most complex thing you made out of clay? Yeah, probably these water whistles. I think are pretty complex. Or my were you there when I showed off those transparent, the transparent plate with me and my buddies on it? That's see-through, you know. Man. I can't believe I'm sculpting right now. I didn't even want to. There's something, I don't know. I just called to do it. No? Crying? What? Sculpting? Yeah. I gotta do it. Oh. Alright, I wanted this little dragon here just chilling. I want to give him some wings. Oh, you didn't see the trans... Oh, okay. Does it still make a sound too? We gotta check. Ooh, no, that's not good. That's actually really bad. Okay. We actually got to do something here that's a little bit like sad. We actually got to cut that. We squished the mouthpiece a little bit too much when we were working with this. So this mouthpiece is actually no longer in line with the whistle, and we killed our sound because we were moving it too much. That's kind of sad, but what are you gonna do? Where are those little sticks? There's one. Wasn't I ever able to make in high school? It was so much fun. I have a kiln but nowhere to hook it up. I am the same exact way. I have that same problem. It's okay. One day, we'll figure it out. Okay. Oh, I got so much of it in my mouth now. Because it was all soft, Eating clay meme is real right now. I really need to rinse my mouth off. These are my teeth. I just use it inside my shirt here. Okay. Ugh. Yuck. So yeah, I want you guys to see what I'm doing over here, right? So I'm trying to attach this tail on in a different way. So now it should still make some. There. Way better, right? So we got that cruising for us right now. Okay? I'm going to take a little brush. I did a little bit. It's okay. You just need, you need something you need like a 220 volt outlet. I just live in an apartment, so I don't want to do that. I feel like that'd be like neighbor's floor becomes increasingly hot. Why the heck is my floor? Did they install heated flooring for me all of a sudden? And then all of a sudden, one more second, and I just, I'm gonna get in trouble. I'd just rather not deal with that. The norm is like 120, I think. Okay. See, it kind of almost looks like an ostrich. He's a good dude, you know. That's the tongue, right? You see what I mean? I broke his nose a little bit there. I'm trying to pull out his neck just a little bit so he has some more squiggle here, right? See how you can kind of really get some more out of a pose. Look at that. He's got to kind of just like now he's got to have these two wings, right? So let's pick out which ones in here look the most like wings. Oh, well, I just hit my camera here. Sorry, guys. Okay. Don't you guys kind of see how they look like wings? These ones do. So that's why having the thick ones, not the thin ones, are also nice to have, right? We might we've probably almost been streaming for like 2 hours, so since I'm sculpting, I feel like I'm not gonna do them all. I'll work on them, some of them more tomorrow. I'll do like, I think I'll finish this one, I'll call it. Because I feel like, you know, I gotta make sure I'm... Actually, I think I want both the wings to be up. I think that's going to make it feel more animated than having one wing totally resting, right? So you guys will see in a second when I put this on there what I'm talking about. And then the thing is, with the things that prop up the piece for right now, you don't attach those good, so then you can just chip away at them later. So it makes it kind of easy to prop things up with clay, and since it's the same, it's going to shrink at the same rate too, right? Okay. I really like this really simple little bird, dude. He's just kind of cool. Alright, now we gotta do the bird on the other side. I went down the rabbit hole. This always happens. Okay. You can go down the rabbit hole, we just gotta prepare here. Shelf? Oh, desk? Desk? Okay, so we gotta put some of this stuff over there. So like these handles that we were working on, these guys gotta come with us into the bin here. Are you kidding me? He grabbed one of my shoes. Man, I swear these vessels, they have a mind of their own sometimes, dude. Just yanked my shoe right off. Give me this back. this is a vibe. Wheel. Close in. Space. Alrighty. So let's get our other whistle cruising here. Maybe we'll have him actually looking over this way a little bit. You have company? No, it's just literally the pots. They'll grab you. This pot literally just like jumped out of the bin and yanked at my toes. Alright. I think we're gonna do two birds, like they're territorial birds, right? High pressure. This is gonna be fine. I like these sounds. Again, I wish I had my hole punch. My hole punch would have been perfect for this. Alright, so get some more water, and I'm going to just slowly hydrate this little hole that I'm working on over here. I'll just spin it around. And so, if you guys look, do you see how the hole's not on the vessel? It's kind of in this top part here. And so that way maybe I can lift this bird up a little bit taller to make this bird look like it's looking at this secondary bird here, right? We can obviously change their heads around a little bit when we finish making them. We really, though, just want to make sure some of the voice of the bird still comes through, though. This one's going to be nice. I can already envision how it's going to look. Okay. This whistle will kind of keep its sound, I think, a little bit better. Just because this whistle is harder. Right? Where the one over here, the whistle it just made it, so it's a little bit less like sturdy on there. Okay. So first thing first, we gotta find a tail. Tail and two wings. Kind of like this being a wing, kind of like this being a tail, and I kind of like I kind of like this being a wing. Maybe these are two wings. And I just didn't have a tail yet, actually. That's a good tail. Okay, now let's start putting away the whistles too. Because we can't have the whistles getting too stiff either. And so now we have all our parts for the rest of the stream, so Hold on. Shelf? So you can see I'm putting the whistles away here. So kind of cool, right? Doesn't it seem kind of just like pretty? Like there's something that's just kind of pretty about the object right now. Like it has this kind of like a painterly story going on, right? Like the piece isn't painterly, but like you know, like when you look at it like a story that's trying to be conveyed by a painter, you know, like it has that sort of vibe of it. It's like trying to be very apparent visually to like allude you to think about it in a different way, right? Like there's a lot of very obvious happenings. Alright, we'll get this guy over here too. Okay, because the other stuff is actually getting a little bit too dry. Alright. And everything is all sealed up. Except these two things. And then we're good. Sweet. So now we can just focus on finishing what we got here. Space. Alrighty. That's the tail. We can do the tail kind of later, I feel like. No, maybe we do the tail now and it gives it some support. Actually, let's see what the head's gonna look like. Because that's really gonna be... This is where we just gotta start thinking about how these two birds are gonna be talking with each other here, right? Wow. How did I do the ribboning? Like on this tool? This thing? This right here. This is done on the wheel as it's spinning. It's kind of like a extrapolation on discard, right? Like when you trim the bottoms of your pots, they're kind of like those little trimmings. So it's like a way to create sculpture on the wheel, or using the wheel as a tool, right? Same thing, you can make handles on the wheel. You can do all sorts of cool stuff off the wheel that a lot of people just don't like to capitalize on. But I think it's like the coolest thing. Okay. Oh, well, you know what? Okay. Just gonna get this bonded on here first. And then after that, we're gonna pull this head up a little bit like a handle. was a hard one to get where I want it to be. Oh, this kind of looks nice. Okay. Anyway. Just gonna pull this up. All right. So that way we could just pull up the neck of this guy. So it look like they're gonna be having like a little... Dude! Look at that, dude. They're having like a turf war, dude. I like the look of that, dude. We like this. Okay. Start attaching these parts then. Dinosaurs, right? There's something kind of... They really just don't like each other. Like there's something about these two, like you can tell there's like some beef going on between these two. Yeah, I'll do that. I feel like that's gonna look good. Pissed, dude. These guys are pissed. Yeah, I think so too. There's something, I still gotta do the whole head of this guy here, but I want there to be kind of like this like little face off here, right? Like I want there to be like a face off between these two kind of like bird-like things. Yeah, we kind of like those spots. So right now, that's all I'm doing is trying to just pick where I want the end of the feet. So the small guy, I think he deserves not to have feet. So he's maybe like a juvenile of these little creatures, right? And then this guy is like kind of like the main adult, right? Version. So he's like a mature version of the monster here, right? It's like if you ever seen like deer, like buck, and like they do like that little face-off thing when they're in the woods against each other. And so it was like in the documentaries or in real life. Well, at least in the documentaries, they're like, and the old alpha buck with his gray coat and battle-scarred physique. Like they talked to him about that. Like, uh, like I want that to kind of be displayed here on this. You think so? I don't know. I wouldn't really even call what I'm doing sculpting. Because it's not like a lot of the forms that are there, they kind of like existed there. Like the wings, for example, and the neck, it's just kind of using pottery processes to kind of get what I want, right? So, I don't know. It seems like I'm cheating a little bit. Alright, I think we're kind of like these kind of feet that he's got on him now. Camera A. Ka-chow. So you see how he has these two back legs? They kind of really like awkward looking, like skeletal almost, right? I feel like they feel bird. You know how they like give the feeling of bird to me, you know? This actually might not be a great tail. It feels a little weak for a tail. Yeah, a bigger tail. Like, I think this, to be honest, might be a better tail. Oh, I know what I gotta do. I gotta attach a small and a large together to get what I'm looking for. This will be perfect. Okay. Epic. I had to do this before, so now I know how to do it. Okay. We gotta create a new song. What is this? Okay, that seems okay. Okay. Alrighty. So we like the legs quite a bit, but we got to make the tail on there. So we're going to first by attaching the tail. So get some scratches on there. Get some of this goopy sponge here. We got to make sure we get quite a bit of clay on this side so we can make a mark. It's okay if this mark's a little bit lower. So it's going to be right on the bottom underneath. So it's going to actually look like it's below where the tail is going to be. Stallions also have the arc in their neck. Yeah, there is something kind of like totally like horse-like too. The Zen sculpting, no kidding, it's really expressive. I can feel the moment or motion and tension. Yeah, I think too, like since I'm like stretching clay, there's an innate like tension and like a motion there too. So I think some of my processes I'm doing also allude towards movement a little bit more. And the actually making of these little parts too. There was a lot of movement in them, so they kind of look like ripple or waves. So they also have like a intrinsic motion attached to it. Okay, so see how there's like this little nude spot on the back there? So now we can just cover that with this. We're going to cut this down though. So that way we can make it kind of feel more like it's all one piece rather than separate. Okay. And then we got to do the face, and then we're done. I'm actually kind of sad I went with the route of doing the sculpting. Because that means tomorrow is just going to be like all day of me just sculpting stuff. Well, we'll see. We'll see how each one responds. Because if they respond like they're going to be wanting to be sculpted again, I'm going to have to reply, you know. But I feel like this is looking pretty good. Let's dress up some of these unsightly edges with the brush quick. Yes, I totally like that idea with the flowers becoming like these. I gotta do that. I should like some of the flowers that are a little bit more like uniform. I should literally cut them in half, peel them open, and like stuff them with like these like teeth and stuff. I feel like that'd be so cool. It's actually a really good idea. I'll do that tomorrow. Pull the teeth like you do the dragon toes. Okay, I can do that. Let me get the head, like, kind of just underway, and then we'll see. Because it's going to be hard to get underneath the neck of that guy if it's, like, wanting to rip. But this actually looks okay. That's still kind of soft, so this will be nice to do. Something, too, think about scale. So if he's already bigger, right? So how can you increase the scale is if you make the bigger thing have smaller eyes, so then it makes you look like you're seeing a zoomed in version of the smaller one, right? I don't know if that really makes sense, but like the smaller eyes is just going to make this guy look more larger. More larger, yes. It's totally what I said. Actually looks kind of freaky right now. I feel like whenever I hear this song, I associate it with like some hope core. It's always some stuff like, you know, man, sometimes life comes at you and you just keep moving. You know, like that sort of like stuff. I hope you guys know what I'm talking about. Okay. I'm gonna break this one off a little bit more. I feel like they're a little bit too small to look nice, like the pulled teeth. That was a disaster. His neck just broke. Okay, we're not gonna mess around with the teeth too much more. We're kind of just gonna do like little pushed in ones. I kind of lost this like sort of almost properness to the way that the neck kind of bent, like it had like that horse link. Now it kind of lost that when I made the final parts of this head here. Yeah, but I think we kind of need that. Zoom. add the little pupils to the eyes. So it's looking right at here. And the dragon is not going to look. He's going to look like Godzilla eyes, just out to the side, you know? Like he's almost soulless. Good? Camera A? Hello guys. I guess we can zoom in a little bit. I'll zoom in to about there. I think that'll be good. Okay. Anyway, so I mean here we have a water whistle, essentially, right? And this one, I think, you know, it's a pretty nice little water whistle here. I like these, like, sort of, like, territory, like the vessel functioning as territory motif that's coming in with these water whistles. I was doing the first, if you remember, Generation 2 water whistles, there was always, like, sheep versus snake, you know, like bull versus lamb, or, you know, deer versus goose, right? So I'm keeping that motif of like the territories, the vessels being a territory, they're their own little instrument, they make their own sound, right? And then, you know, if I kind of extrapolate on that a little bit, you know, in Generation 3 water whistles, we went into the idea of the dragons, right? So I was sculpting these dragons that cross both sides to become one being, right? So it's like one unit, right? And so now I'm collapsing that sort of Generation 2 territory and environment with the Generation 3 dragons. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. All the best and strong mentality. Ka-chow. Ka-chow. There we go. I'll give you guys one last little zoom in here. That's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one, okay?